as we talk about the journey.
Right.
But within that journey, there's history that we're continuing to make. And so I break it down as his story.
Okay.
So I have a story, you have a story, everyone has a story, and his story may be different than mine.
Right.
However, I don't think that if I change anything, I don't think that the life lessons that I learned would be the same.
This is a journey.
Let me take you on a journey.
There will still be the journey.
The journey.
New sheriff in town, and his name is the journey.
Journey.
This thing is bigger than Nino Brown. This is the journey.
The journey.
What is it that moved you?
The journey. The journey. The journey. The journey. The journey.
Welcome back to another episode of The Journey. I'm your host, Larry Robinson, and today we have a Memphis icon who comes to us via Clarksdale, Mississippi. But before we get to that, we got to go to our quote. And our quote goes like this: excellence is the best deterrent to racism or sexism. And that comes to us from the great Oprah Winfrey. And why I use this quote with this Memphis icon is because he's been in a space that he's almost been by himself. But not only does he work in the space by himself, he does an excellent job and he's amazing at it. So let's talk about brother Jeremy Simpson. He's out of Clarksdale, Mississippi. He's the founder and CEO of Systems Technology, Inc., former ball player, but now he's cycling. His brother riding bikes all over the world. He's a visionary leader. He's a great father, great friend, and an outstanding husband. So without further ado, we have brother Jeremy Simpson. What's up, Jeremy?
Hey, man.
How you doing, man?
Good.
I'm glad you're here.
Man, it's been a long time. It's been a long time. We've talked about it, but now I'm here.
There you go. There you go.
Now I'm here.
So listen, man, we're going back. We're going back to early years.
Okay.
I know. Tell me about back in Clarksdale, Mississippi. What was the household like? And I met your dad and your mom, so I know it had to be a real cool background.
Yeah, and I had two sisters.
Oh, okay, okay.
Which, in thinking about it, a mom and three sisters, you never could get bathroom time. So my dad was a contractor.
Okay.
So he put a separate bathroom right off my mom in his room and still had a hard time in the bathroom. But loving family.
Okay.
I'm kind of what you call an old soul.
Okay.
Because it was my house, our neighbor's home.
Okay.
And then my grandmother. And my grandmother kind of took me in as her son.
Oh.
I stayed a lot with her. When it came to money, she would give me $20, $25 or something like that.
Okay.
Then my sisters would go right behind me and she said she didn't have anything. So
You sound like the favorite.
Yeah, that was my girl. So when I was about...
Hold on, don't get into the story yet. Don't get into the story. This is the rapid fire section.
Okay.
Okay, so who outside of your parents and those in the household, and excluding your grandmother, had the biggest influence on young Jeremy?
I think it was a combination of my mom and my dad.
You can't use your parents. It's outside the household, and you can't use your mom and you can't use your grandmother. So who outside the household had the biggest influence on young Jeremy?
It was a gentleman by the name of Mayo Wilson.
Okay. Why?
And because he was the ultimate professional. Matter of fact, when I got ready to start my business, he gave me a sample business plan.
Okay.
But in Clarksdale, he was an entrepreneur, an educator. He was a sharp dresser.
Okay.
And he was kind of one of those guys that you knew that he did something.
Right.
But you couldn't really put your finger on it, but you knew he was the ultimate professional. He was the business guy that I looked up to.
Okay.
And
did you find out what he did?
Yeah, he ran Home Opportunity. He also started some businesses within Clarksdale. And he was good at startups.
Well, shout out to Mayo.
Yeah, he was good at startups.
What decision did you make as a young person that ended up having a lifelong impact, even though at the time you may not have known that it was going to have that kind of impact on your life?
I think for me, of course, you know, this is the Bible Belt, but I think for me, giving my life to Christ.
Really?
And the reason why I say that is because in Clarksdale, I had two churches. My mom had a church.
Okay.
And my dad attended another church. So in Mississippi, the preacher would preach on first and third Sunday.
Okay.
And then at my mom's church, it was second and fourth.
Okay.
So we had church every Sunday. So we're in the choir here. We're in the choir at this church.
Oh, wow.
And so my grandmother, my dad's
You
side.
can sing?
Nah, I could sing solo. Solo, you couldn't hear me. But my grandmother would take us to church, and they had revival. And of course, you have the morning bench,
right?
And the cousins. We're knowing that we're gonna go sit up there. We just don't know when. And so a couple of my cousins went and sat up on the morning bench on that first night. I said, well, I'll probably go about Thursday.
Okay.
And I ended up going Wednesday.
Okay.
And didn't know that every revival you had to sit up front.
Oh.
So when you decided to give your life to Christ and you had to sit on what they call the morning bench, then if you did it on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, that's where you sat.
Oh, wow.
And as kids.
Now, why do you say it gave you, it impacted your life? You know, what about giving your life to Christ really has become very important to you at this point?
I think because it gives you faith. Well, it doesn't give you faith. You embody faith.
Okay.
Hope, trust, love.
Okay.
And so it creates a you in which when challenges come,
right,
you can lean on something and believe that there is hope.
Okay.
You can love someone, you can care for someone, even if they don't have your best interest.
Right.
Which in turn allows you to be the bigger person.
Okay.
So in saying that it impacted my life in businesses, we have obstacles, we have challenges, and you sometimes get discouraged.
Right.
But your commitment and belief that through your faith that you will get through it.
Okay.
I think that those are things that are most impactful to me.
When did you know you was going to be okay? When did you know when you could look in the mirror and say, I can do this thing called life?
Well, it's still an ongoing process.
Okay.
So I can say that I am more equipped as I get older for life's challenges.
Right.
And for things that may come and test and challenge my faith.
Okay.
But as it relates to being prepared for this thing called life, I embrace it.
Okay.
And I embrace it because I was here for a reason.
Okay.
And whatever that reason is, I know part of it, but I'm still continuing to seek what that reason is.
How different are you from the person you dreamed you'd be as a young person?
I think I'm more mature. I think I'm more
Who did you dream
patient.
you would be? Who did you think you'd be when you used to sit back in your bed, hands behind your head, looking up at the sky, at the ceiling? Who did you see young Jeremy being?
Being always in technology.
Really?
But my dream was to move to Dallas.
Okay.
Work for AT&T or some tech company and eventually be a CEO or be a chief operating officer.
Okay.
And, continue to grow in that technology space.
Okay.
But prior to that, being in Clarksdale, Mississippi,
right,
not having a lot of things to aspire for.
Right.
My first thing was to go to the Navy.
Really?
Play sports, Navy, water, beach,
right,
women,
right,
all of this stuff.
Okay. All right. So it's the last question of this segment. And this is one that I think most Black men can kind of pinpoint in their life when it happened. But when was the moment that you realized you was a Black man?
So
hold on. Listen, we're going to be right back on the journey where Brother Jeremy is going to share with us when he realized he was a black man. So I need you to stay right where you are until we get back, because it's going to be a good one. This is The Journey on the Kazuki Network.
This is a journey.
Let me take you on a journey.
Success in life is not a straight line. There are twists and turns in everyone's life, and the more you know about their story, the more you'll understand the process. Kazuki Media Group proudly presents The Journey, a show that features successful black men in Memphis telling their stories of their lives and the ups and downs they've encountered on their ultimate road to success. We believe The Journey will encourage young men and help them see that life is a journey. Watch The Journey, hosted by me, Larry Robinson. Brought to you by the Kazuki Media Group in partnership with the Delta Boulay. And we are back on The Journey. So today we have brother Jeremy Simpson, straight out of Clarksdale, Mississippi. But now he's a Memphis icon, and he's making things happen with his technology company, Systems Technology, Inc. Before we left, we asked Jeremy, when did he realize he was a black man? However, before we get to that question, I got another one.
What's that?
What's your superpower? What's that thing that Jeremy can do that you've kind of discovered is the thing that you do better than most people, if not all the people that you meet?
I think that I am a quick thinker.
Okay.
I think that I process things really fast.
Okay.
I think that I can hear a portion of what someone's saying and I process it. And sometimes I pretty much can determine what the end game is, or what's your approach, or what your angle is, or what's that resolution. I think that for some reason, I've always been like that.
Right.
It got me in trouble as a child because I would try to predict, and most of the time I would be wrong to anticipate from getting whippings. But I think that that's pretty much it.
Okay. When was the last time you got a whipping?
It's been a while, but if you talk to my mom, she'll give me one today. And you know that.
For certain. So I asked you about when you realized you was a black man.
Mm-hmm.
What was that moment?
So I think I was 11th grade in Clarksdale, Mississippi.
Okay.
And we were a block from McDonald's, Sonic, and all those things. So we walked a lot.
Okay.
So I'm leaving McDonald's.
Okay.
And a couple of white kids were driving by in a truck.
Okay.
And they hit me in the back of the head with a cup that was full of ice, beer, something like that. And then they threw the finger up and they called me the N-word.
Right.
And so I remembered the truck. I told a friend of mine what happened and found out that there were some kids that in Clarksdale, the blacks lived on one side of the track, the whites lived on the other side of the track.
Right.
And so we determined who it was, but he happened to be an influential guy that lived out up on the hills, child.
Right.
And so they went and talked to him. Nothing happened. We didn't realize that he went to school with me. So
was there a reason that he picked you guys out, or was it just the fact
they
that
had been drinking at that young age?
Okay.
They started driving and they just picked me, a lone African-American boy walking down the street, and I was a target.
Oh, wow.
But nothing happened. Wow. Nothing happened. And when I realized that we were still living in that environment and that culture, was my dad was running for office. And this was probably about 10 years ago.
Okay.
They burned a cross in our yard. And then they called the house and told him he needs to watch his back. And I remember the police coming
10
over.
years ago?
It may have been 10 years ago. And they did the recording to see who the voice was. And they were trying to determine who it was. But yeah, he was running for office.
Wow, that's wild. Okay, go back to your childhood, man. What's a memory that really sticks out from that? Let's say the early, not the early, but maybe like in the 10 to 12-year-old range. You got any memories of that stuff?
Yeah, man. I think a lot of memories would be with my grandparents, laughing and joking with my sisters, my friends. I mean, we had a block, so we stayed on one end, and there was a fire station on the other end. They eventually tore the fire station down, but they left the drive.
Okay.
And that was our basketball court. And we would go down and play basketball. We were creative, so my granddad cut a hole out of the bottom of a milk carton.
Oh, yeah?
And we tacked it up on a pole. And we played, and we played, and we played. Went home, ate, came back, played again.
Some more.
And it was just that feeling of being free.
Okay.
And no responsibilities.
Okay.
That time when you can just say that you really enjoyed life without any pressure or responsibilities.
Well, I remember in a conversation we were having that changed. Because your dad and them was like breaking all kind of child labor laws. So at what age did you start having to work in the business, the family business, and all of that stuff?
Well, full disclosure, it's past the
statutes of limitations.
Yeah, it is. So that probably was about 12, 13, where my dad had a construction company. He had a nightclub, and then I used to cut grass.
Okay.
So we would get up in the morning, probably about 7 o'clock, and get the van and the trucks ready.
Right.
And we would do things like scrape shingles off a roof, take shingles up, demo a house, paint the house. Then after we get done with not all those things in one day, but whatever the task was for that day.
Really?
Then on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sundays, I would have to go clean the club up because the club he had was BYOB.
Okay.
And he just sold beer, wine coolers, Sprite. Right. What they call, you probably don't know, the setup.
The setup.
Yeah, the
setup.
setup.
I know about the setup.
So we would have to clean all of that up the night before. And then after that, probably would have time to play. But what you're talking about breaking the labor laws was, I think at the time, I may have gotten about $20 a week.
Okay.
So, but I had cousins that were going to chop cotton and they were getting $30 a day.
Right.
So I'm saying, something's not right here. So I one day asked my dad about it and he said, do you wash your clothes? Do you pay for the food that you eat?
Right.
Do you pay the light bill, the phone bill? Now we can start doing that. However, it's going to cost more than you may be broke.
Right.
So, but having said that, we did have, I did as a child,
right,
had some responsibilities at a young age.
Right.
Which I think at this point in my life, I look back at it and some of the things that I was held accountable for.
Right.
At a young age, now I find myself utilizing some of those things because the responsibility of, for example, bagging up a truck.
Right.
Or making sure that we take the equipment to the job site.
Right.
Making sure that we ensure that this roof is scraped and everything's picked up. Things like that. So now in my business, I find myself with that same drive, with that same attention to detail, if you would.
Right, right. Wow, man. Any regrets? Anything that you would like to go back in your childhood and say, man, if I could do this over again?
No, but we often say that we wish if we knew now what we knew then.
Right.
Well, if we knew then what we know now.
Right.
But no regrets. I think that all of us have a path.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever path we take, it's our destiny.
Right.
And as we talk about the journey,
Right.
but within that journey, there's history that we're continuing to make. And so I break it down as his story.
Okay.
So I have a story, you have a story, everyone has a story, and his story may be different than mine.
Right.
However, I don't think that if I change anything, I don't think that the life lessons that I learned would be the same.
Okay. Okay. Fondest memory. Fondest memory around high school time.
Well, if you listen to my dad, he took me hunting, and he said when I found out how to use tools and I found a girlfriend, I stopped hunting. So when I went hunting, he doesn't believe this, but
Right.
we had to rally the dogs in.
Right.
So I had the shotgun under my arm.
Right.
And so I went to put the chain on, hook the dogs up, and the tip of the gun dipped in the mud. And so I jumped a rabbit. I didn't realize that it had mud, so I pulled the trigger.
Right.
And when I pulled the trigger, the barrel split back.
Oh,
He says that it's because I had a girlfriend. Well,
And why did he say because you had a girlfriend?
because I did.
Oh.
But my fondest memory is in high school playing sports. My fondest memory in high school was all of the friends, the relationships that I have now,
Right.
that we cannot see each other for probably 30 years. And we talk as if we just met and just talked yesterday.
Right.
So my fondest memory is just learning, just being with my friends and playing sports.
Man, you're a pretty tall guy. So was there ever a time you felt like you was going to play in the NBA or anything like that?
It was, but it was short-lived.
Really?
Yeah, it was, but it was short-lived. So we had the milk carts, we had the basketball pickup game,
Right.
and things like that. Played basketball, but I realized that I'm an analytical thinker.
Right.
So I started doing the numbers,
Okay.
and the percentage of an individual playing a professional sport was not as great as an individual working for a company
Right.
or becoming a president of a firm.
Okay.
So that was my choice.
I hear you. I hear you. Now, your transition to adulthood. Graduate from college. You find that girl that you know that you build a family with. Tell me about that moment.
So that moment is where I said that everything is over.
All the playtime.
All the playtime is over, and that I want to commit to starting a family,
Right.
and things like that.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it didn't last long.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, I mean, we were young,
Okay.
and I think that
How old were you when you got married first?
about 26.
Okay.
26.
That is pretty young.
Yeah. So, but now that the wife that I'm married to now keeps me grounded.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she does. She
What do
keeps
you
me
mean
grounded.
by that? What do you mean? How does she
Well,
keep you
it doesn't
grounded?
matter whether we're at a gala. It doesn't matter whether we are doing business deals or business transactions. No matter what we're doing or I'm doing or involved in that I
Right.
think is big business or big stuff, still got to take out the garbage. Still did you cut the grass. I mean, it is what it is.
I hear you.
It is.
What role did Memphis play in your development as the person you are currently?
I think Memphis is a city that, again, keeps you humble. I think that Memphis is a city that allows one to be able to explore, but also have the ability to create relationships with individuals, because Memphis is a big town.
Right.
And for the most part, you will come across someone's path at least once or twice in Memphis, unlike other cities. But for me, Memphis has given me a sense of humbleness.
Mm-hmm.
And you have people in Memphis like yourself that are genuine people.
Right.
You have people in Memphis that I can relate to in a way in which, growing up in Clarksdale, a lot of people didn't have fancy cars. They didn't have big houses.
Right.
They didn't have all of the prestige and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, Memphis has allowed me to connect again to individuals in Memphis like I did in Clarksdale, because you base a person on who they are,
right,
what they are, and how they carry themselves outside of everything else. And that's the same way I approach doing business. If it's not organic, then it's difficult for me to do business. But Memphis has played a role from political aspect, being involved. Originally, when I came to Memphis, I was considered like a numbers guy.
Right.
And crunching numbers and doing things for campaigns and establishing relationships there and moving into creating relationships on the business side. And one of my mentors in Memphis was my pastor, Reverend Kyles.
Okay.
And so I would go to DC and he was there. And there's been times where he's brought me into rooms and I'm in rooms with all the individuals that you would see on television. You're like, wow.
Yeah.
Which made me realize that you can do this too.
Right.
And that they put on their pants just like you. And behind the camera and behind the glitz and glamour, they're just ordinary people.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to take you back to Clarksdale. You see the old house that you used to live in, or maybe your parents still live in there.
Mm-hmm.
But on this day, you open the front door, you look in there. It's little Jeremy.
I knew you were going there.
What would you say to little Jeremy today? If you could speak to him, what would you say to him?
First, I would joke with him, because if it was a little Jeremy, he probably had his hair all over the place. He probably was on the floor with no shoes on. But what I would say to him is that you can become anything that you want to. Okay. You can do whatever you want to do. That you're not confined to this box that you think you're in now. You don't have all the exposure or the experience that you have, that you see other people may be exposed to. But what I would say to him is that just keep believing in you, keep believing in yourself, read, explore, continue to seek, and always seek things that are outside of the box and outside of the norm. But you can achieve anything you want to.
That's awesome. Actually, sound like you've already kind of followed that because you've always been kind of outside the box, kind of visionary and the like. And that's what I love about you. Man, we're coming to the end. There's plenty of people watching this, plenty of young people, specifically young Black males. I'd like you to look in that camera and leave them with a Simpsonism. Something that they will remember this time of watching you and experiencing Jeremy Simpson. So, floor is yours.
Well, if I could be an example, what I would say is individuals like me and like Mr. Robinson and other individuals that could possibly mentor you, realize that what you see is what you believe. What you believe is what you'll become. I often live by the motto of seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all those things will be added unto you. So in essence, what I'm saying is that it's not always about chasing the money. It's not always about chasing the bag, if you will, but it's about following your dreams, following your passion, and believing in yourself. And if you don't make it about the revenue or the money, when obstacles come, you'll still continue to believe in yourself. You'll still continue to believe in your dream, because your dream is your dream. Your gift is your gift. Your gift is something that you can do with less effort that others find difficulty doing with a lot of effort, because that's your gift. Believe in yourself, love yourself, embrace life, and continue to have faith.
Wow. Excellence is the best deterrent to racism or sexism. Comes from Oprah Winfrey. This brother believes in excellence and has exhibited it on every level, especially with Systems Technology, Inc. I'm Larry Robinson. For my brother, Jeremy Simpson, you've been watching The Journey. I keep telling you, come back. We got the best of Memphis, and we bringing them right here to talk to you and to help you navigate this ever-winding road of success. Till next time, take care. Thank you to our partners, the Delta Boulay. To hear more incredible stories like this, be sure to download the Kadzukian app from the App Store or Google Play. Or check out the Journey Memphis podcast on all your major podcast providers. Also, check us out on the Kadzukian Network.